Good morning. My name is Jess Jonas, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a member of this congregation and also a worship associate at the Unitarian Universalist Area Church at First Parish in Sherburne. Welcome to this loving community. Come in bringing all of who you are. We gather and worship, our hearts alive with hope that here we will be truly seen. Turn down the volume on your fears, remove your figurative masks, and loosen the armor around your heart. May we root ourselves in the values of this faith: acceptance and encouragement, compassion and transcendence, justice and transformation. We strive not for perfection, but for authenticity and connection. We come here to learn about being in relationship together, to listen, to forgive, to be vulnerable, to create trust, and to have compassion for one another. We are gathered here to walk each other home. Be here in this moment. Let go. Breathe.
Good morning. So first of all, a few announcements this morning. We are a small but hearty group, and I want to say hello to the people at home who are watching. I imagine there are more people at home than usual this week, and I just want to give a couple of announcements about some of the pandemic changes and the changes that we're making to our protocols based on Omicron right now. So as you may have seen in this week's weekly email or special email, we're requiring all people to be fully vaccinated for in-person worship. So you can check more information in your special email that came out on Thursday. We're also spacing the pews a bit more this month and going forward. And a reminder that we have a great air filtration system in here. So we are grateful to those who worked on the capital campaign to make that possible. We won't be holding in-person meetings this month, and we are still holding GANS, the Good as New shop, that is still open. So those are some of the updates on what's happening right now in our protocols and the changes that we're making right now. We want to remind everybody to use consent for handshakes and hugs and saying hello, see what people are comfortable with right now. Reminder that our prayer cards are right over here if you'd like to submit a prayer during the service, and you can also submit online at prayers@euac.org. And one final reminder or announcement from Gage is that if you're here in person, these poinsettias are available to take home. They're going to last about another month, so basically everyone here can take one home. Please do, but Gage does want us to know that they're poisonous to cats, so I will not be taking one home. But thank you to Gage for her generous offer of these poinsettias, and please do help us by taking them home. So I invite you to greet one another, and if you are online, we are greeting you right now.
opening words come to us today from the Reverend Margaret Weiss. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, and lift up your hope for something new to happen. Some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here, now, to this moment. Come, let us worship together. Please rise, embody your spirit, and hum our opening hymn, number 55, Dark of Winter.
Of winter soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profoundly, and then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me, and then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
Now for our chalice lighting and covenant. Jess is going to light the chalice. Please join in saying our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, Jason, don't go anywhere. So this morning's Wonder Box, I have an item that I'm going to use to tell a story. What is it?
It's a fork.
Huh? But it's not just any fork. It's a telescoping fork. All right, so this story comes from the Jewish tale that I learned as a Unitarian Universalist youth. And it's a story of a person who dies and goes to talk with God. And God says, "Let me show you hell." And the person goes into a room, and there's a beautiful feast at the table. But nobody is eating. Everyone looks so hungry. They're so hungry. They look desperate. They're just looking at the food because they all have really long spoons. And the spoons are longer than their arms, longer than this fork. They can't get the spoons into their mouth. And they're just looking at the food and so hungry. And then God says, "Okay, I'm going to show you heaven." And the person goes into heaven, and they are also surrounded by a beautiful feast. And they have these long spoons. But the difference in this place is that the people have learned to feed one another. So they are all sitting around getting fed and getting nourished. So I've been thinking about this story this week as we have been changing the ways that we have been moving through the world, as Omicron has shifted how we are thinking about the pandemic. And I've been thinking about the ways that we can take care of each other right now, and the ways that we can feed one another, even if we are changing our protocols, and the ways that we can care for one another through this time. So I invite us to think about ways that we can feed one another in this time, and ways that we can help create heaven on earth, even as the spoons may not be what we wanted them to be. Thank you very much.
Now is a time in our service when we draw nearer to our center and enter a time of prayer and meditation. So be you in this sanctuary or at home, I encourage you now to place your feet flat on the ground and take a few deep, nurturing breaths. We will now have our call to prayer. There is a love. Many of us carry with us Today, prayers for loved ones, the world we share, and prayers of joy and thanksgiving. We share the following prayers for loved ones. We have a prayer from Judy Davis. Judy writes, Earl Davis's brother Bill passed away today. Please include him in the prayer. Valerie asks us to hold Irving Weissman, Valerie's brother-in-law's father, dealing with a difficult recovery after a long hospital stay. Susan and John Weaver ask us to remember Jim Corsi, age 60, who died January 4th, and also to hold his Hopkinton family. Alan asks that we hold the memory of his brother Mitchell, who passed 2 weeks ago. For these prayers and all those unspoken, we light a candle. We turn now our attention to the world beyond us. There are an untold number of places in this world that need prayer and healing, and yet we look closer at hand. And we're thinking of the nurses, doctors, and aides, all those working on the front lines in this latest wave of the pandemic. May they be enveloped by rest soon. We're also thinking of those for whom treatment, surgery, appointments even, have been postponed because of the need, the imminent need of others, leaving them in a most precarious situation. For those prayers and the ones unspoken, we light a candle. And in this time, it's so crucial that we think of the blessings in our life and look to the things that bring us joy. So some gratitudes for the winter wonderland. While December was eerily warm, it is good and wondrous to be surrounded by snow. Also, we're grateful for another day in this life. For what comes with a new day is hope. A guaranteed hope, because even in the most tiniest of ways, this day will be different than yesterday. And a last gratitude, a real wondrous gratitude from Janet Snyder. It's a message of grateful thanks to my UU community for their loving support. For these prayers and those unspoken, we light a candle. Let us pray. O Holy One, this moment we find ourselves in calls for much vigilance, vigilance of safety. And yet each moment informs and perpetuates the next moment, and the next, and the next. We ask then for guidance in balancing this vigilance, lest it become all we experience. Spirit of life, is it not true that we must be equally vigilant about joy and hope? That we must somehow not allow the fear, which is true and real, to be the only lens through which we see our lives? God, we wonder about this somehow, for it does feel so great and often overwhelming. And so it is that we give ourselves to the practice of prayer as a path to the somehow. We bring ourselves to this community, in person and online, as a path to the somehow. We seek something that is outside of ourselves, beyond ourselves, knowing that this somehow resides in relationship. Join me in a few moments of silence.
Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Faith, Trusting Your Own Deepest Experience by Sharon Salzberg. The first step on the journey of faith is to recognize that everything is moving onward to something else, inside us and outside. Seeing this truth is the foundation of faith. Life is in transition, movement, and growth. However solid things may appear on the surface, everything in life is changing without exception. Even Mount Everest, the perfect symbol of indomitable, unyielding, massively solid reality, is growing a quarter of an inch a year as the landmass of India pushes under Asia. People come and go in our lives. Possessions break or change. Governments and whole systems of government are established or disintegrate. Eager anticipation precedes a meal, which soon ends. A relationship is difficult and disappointing, then transforms into a bond we trust. We might feel frightened in the morning, reassured in the afternoon, and uneasy at night. We know that at the end of our lives, we die. There is change, breath, oscillation, and rhythm everywhere. With faith, we can draw near to the truth of the present moment, which is dissolving into the unknown even as we meet it. We open up to what is happening right now in all its mutability and evanescence, a pain in our body, a heartache, an unjust treatment may seem inert, impermeable, unchanging. It may appear to be all that it is, all that ever will be. But when we look closely, instead of solidity, we see porousness, fluidity, motion. We begin to see gaps between the moments of suffering. We see the small changes that are happening all the time in the texture, the intensity, the contours of our pain. No matter what is happening, whenever we see the inevitability of change, the ordinary or even oppressive facts of our lives can become alive with prospect. We see that a self-image we've been holding doesn't need to define us forever, that the next step is not the last step. What life was is not what it is now, and certainly not what it might yet be.
In spirit of the life that we hope to see, the life we hope to create, our offering today will be shared with the ACLU. This past Thursday was the 1-year anniversary of the insurrection. Dr. Cornel West says it rightly when he speaks about the reality that democracy is contingent upon the people keeping it so, that in fact it can erode at any time and in any place. Why then would that be any different here in the States? Institutions such as the ACLU are dedicated to ensuring that the experiment that is a democratic republic stays possible. We can't all be the ones on the front lines of a cause, but we can support those who are. Thank you so much for your generosity.
We are going Come and go with me. We can walk together. We'll climb any mountain, brave any weather. That place we're going is a beautiful song. While we're on our way, we can sing along. We are going to a place where music falls and fills up everything. Though it might be a long time, I know it's gonna be alright. 'Cause we've already started to sing. When we get there, we'll join that choir. Everybody's gonna be there. Whole world's on fire. The light will shine on that endless day. We can sing through the night while we're on our way. We are going to a place where music falls and fills up everything. Though it might be a long time, I know it's gonna be alright. 'Cause we've already started to sing. We are going to a place where music falls and fills up everything. Though it might be a long time, know it's gonna be alright. 'Cause we've already started to sing. We are going to a place where music falls and fills up everything. Though it might be a long time, I know it's gonna be alright. 'Cause we've already started to sing. Yes, we've already started to sing. Yes, we've already started to sing.
Oh, friends, here we are, 2022. I want to say happy 2022, but honestly, I am a little too afraid to jinx it, even though I don't even believe that's how the universe works. So I'll just give you a little insight into what the first week of 2022 has held for many of us in leadership here at UUAC. We've been pivoting to respond to the rising case numbers of this Omicron surge, which frankly feels just out of control. And I know many of you have been pivoting as well. Some of you watching from home are COVID positive. Many of your kids' schools are remote this week. The numbers are still increasing. Once again, our amazing board and our pandemic response team have been thinking hard about how we can meet both the spiritual needs of our community as well as keep everyone safe right now. And also, as many of you know, Reverend Nathan is taking family leave through next Sunday because on Christmas Day, his son Emerson had a seizure. Nathan is taking some time to accompany Emerson to follow-up appointments, at this point, all of which are pointing in a positive direction. but they also are just taking some time to recover from the shock of it all. And I know that Reverend Nathan and the rest of his family greatly appreciates your love and support and the flexibility to have this time away. And he'll be back with us after next Sunday. Today would have traditionally been Nathan's top 10 religious news stories of the previous year, and he does intend to offer this to us later in the month. However, today, in honor of the top 10 early January tradition, I decided to offer my own top 10 sermon this week with the top 10 truths I need to hear right now. A spin on the more traditional top 10 sermon. And I offer this in hopes that these are some reminders that you might need as well. And because we all need a little levity in our lives, and because our magical tech wizard and youth coordinator extraordinaire, India Wood, insists, yes, just give her a round of applause just for being her. India insists that a PowerPoint is the cure for most ailments. So I offer these truths to you in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. So without further ado, here are the top 10 truths I believe many of us need to hear right now. Number 1, this is bullshit. Friends, for 10 years I have been in ministry, and this is the first time I have sworn in the pulpit. Because I feel like our current situation warrants it. Seriously, this is bullshit. People still haven't gotten vaccinated. Our leaders have failed us. I'm just gonna say it plain. Schools are closed or remote right now. The numbers are so bad. Masking has been made into a politically divisive issue instead of a scientifically proven issue. You can go to the next slide, India. This here is my Bitmoji. Science is being questioned as though it is a matter of opinion. It never needed to get this bad. Hospitals are filling up, and whether or not we individually fear for our own health, this is a national and local and global public health crisis and a social crisis at the same time. And it has been going on for almost 2 years. So honestly, the most pastoral way I can say this sucks, it's bullshit. Okay. With that out of the way, let's move on to truth number 2. What doesn't kill you, doesn't kill you. Sometimes I hear what doesn't kill you makes us stronger, and I am over that. I'm over it. What doesn't kill you simply does just that. It doesn't kill you. Sometimes what doesn't kill you seriously injures you. Sometimes it causes permanent damage. Sometimes what doesn't kill you breaks your spirit. Next slide, please. So let's stop trying to pretend that we need to take bad situations and make them into some sort of learning or personal growth opportunity. What doesn't kill you, doesn't kill you. I am strong enough already, thanks. And sometimes, if we are lucky, we can take adverse experiences and we can grow from them. This is called post-traumatic stress, but honestly, it is an entirely separate thing. I would never wish adverse or traumatic experiences on anyone for the sake of personal growth. And if we become stronger or if we grow, it is because we have supportive people and community around us or the resources to deal with what has happened. Next slide, please. So this year, let's stop saying what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, because honestly, too many people have died and too many people are in really rough shape right now. What doesn't kill us, doesn't kill us. End of story. On to truth number 3. Optimism is overrated. I'm having a really hard time looking on the bright side of this situation. I know that people are saying that after this current wave, the pandemic will likely turn endemic and that it will be a turning point in the COVID trajectory. But the past 2 years feel like they have squashed some of my ability to trust and hope that the end of the pandemic is right around the corner, or that travels or parties will be possible soon, or any number of things that I want to plan for the future. Next slide, please. So if you currently feel like Betty White of blessed memory here, that is okay. I love a person who has a sunny demeanor, but what I become wary of is when optimism becomes demanding of others, or becomes what I have heard termed toxic positivity, the denial of real pain in yourself or in others in an attempt to remain positive. So if you feel like crawling under the covers and eating Velveeta straight out of the box, I see you. Do what you need to do. Which brings us to number 4. Resilience is underrated. Next slide, please. I've been feeling a little bit like this heart lately. Have you? Though if this were me, it wouldn't bounce back into that beautiful, perfect, original shape that it was in quite as quickly or easily. It would be way more squished, take a little bit longer to get back to its original shape, and have some cuts or bruises at least or something. The American Psychological Association says, psychologists define resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress, such as family and relationship problems, serious health problems, or workplace or financial stressors. As much as resilience involves bouncing back from these difficult experiences, it can also involve profound personal growth. They continue, with these adverse events, while these adverse events are certainly painful and difficult, they don't have to determine the outcome of your life. There are many aspects of your life that you can control, modify, and grow with. That's the role of resilience. Becoming more resilient not only helps you get through difficult circumstances, it also empowers you to grow and even improve your life along the way. So I declare 2022 the year of nurturing resilience. I think we should be focusing more on resilience and less on optimism, focusing on practices that foster and nurture resilience, practices like building positive social connections, taking care of our bodies, finding purpose and meaning, and nurturing mental wellness. You'll notice that coming to church fills a lot of these roles. And while these practices look different for each person, asking ourselves, what do I need to become more resilient, can be a powerful question to ask ourselves in difficult times. On to number 5. We are in this together, whether we like it or not. As Unitarian Universalists, we often talk about the interconnected web of which we are a part. And so much of my own personal spirituality is grounded in the truth that we are interdependent, and we need one another on both a practical and a spiritual level, that our lives and our destinies are bound up together. Next slide, please, India. So if this lesson from High School Musical, the 2006 classic, sink in, the pandemic offers us a whole new, way less fun way to learn this lesson. COVID doesn't care about national borders or how wealthy we are. Vaccine access across the world affects the spread and the continuation and the mutation of the virus. And we are interdependent and interconnected by the very air we breathe, which can be a scary thing these days. But we are also interdependent in that we need one another, that we are responsible to one another, and that the only way we will get through this is together. And if you don't get the 2006 High School Musical reference, here's Joe Biden telling us the same thing. Okay, on to number 6. Practice matters more than ideals. In times of stress, we don't rise to the level of our highest ideals. We rise to the highest level of our habits. We rely on muscle memory. So I wonder, what is it that we are practicing? How are we practicing being the people we say we want to be, even and especially in times of stress? Next slide, please. As you've heard before, we call them spiritual practices because they are just that, a practice. We practice to get better, not to be perfect. A practice is something that you need to do over and over and over again until it becomes muscle memory. And that means that we will fall short of our goals over and over and over again while we practice. So we must offer ourselves and one another grace when we fall short, and we commit ourselves to the practice. And so, my friends, I wonder, what are you practicing? Where do your practices fall short of your ideals? And how can you support yourself in practicing being the person you want to say you want to be more often, so that you can rely on muscle memory that you've practiced in times of stress? Okay, on to truth number 7. We must learn to face uncertainty with courage. I got the idea for this sermon a little bit from Reverend Nathan and also from one of my favorite authors and podcasters, Kate Bowler, whose most recent book is titled No Cure for Being Human and Other Truths I Need to Hear. At the end of the book, she offers a list of cliches that we often hear, and she counters it with more complex truths that we need to hear. She says that while people say everything happens for a reason, the more complicated truth is that the world is simply an uncertain place and that we must face uncertainty with courage. Next slide, please. You've heard your ministers talk about the reasons that saying everything happens for a reason can be particularly painful or cruel for those who have experienced horrible, tragic losses or communities that experience oppression. That in the world, terrible things happen and there is no cosmic redemptive reason behind it. I love Bowler's offering of a more complicated, necessary truth. That life is uncertain and that we must face uncertainty with courage. So what makes you feel courageous, my friends? For me, it is the deep knowledge that I am not alone in facing the uncertainty. In 2022, I hope that you nurture whatever it is that helps you feel courageous in the face of uncertainty. Okay, on to truth I need to hear, number 8. We can do hard things. As author Glennon Doyle reminds us, we can do hard things. We can get through hard times, we can have hard conversations, we can share hard truths, we can try new things that feel scary or hard. We can keep going when we want to give up. We can do hard things. This is closely related to facing uncertainty with courage and also to nurturing resilience. Next slide, please. This is a hard time. And it has been a hard time for a long time. But especially together, and especially when we support one another, we can do hard things. On to number 9. Nothing lasts forever. No feelings, no experience will last forever. I find this to be a helpful reminder in this time when it feels like the onset of Omicron is a kind of backsliding, when we are deciding to shut down in-person meetings and gatherings except for worship, but nothing lasts forever. Next slide, please. I have found it helpful this week to remember back to last January and to remind myself that we are not in the same place we were a year ago. A year ago, I was in a full-on closed pod, not seeing anyone beyond my little bubble. A year ago, the first of us were just able to get vaccinated. Schools were almost fully remote. Church was entirely on Zoom. Things will keep changing, and we will keep trying to shape them, to change them for the better. And when things are hard, it can be helpful to remind ourselves, this current reality will not be the forever reality. And finally, the last truth that many of us might need to hear in these times, truth number 10. We can still have joy. In times of great challenge, it is more essential than ever to remember that we can still have access to play, joy, humor, and irreverence, and that these are not just things that are important for children's healthy brains, they are important for healthy human brains. Next slide, please, India. Grumpy cat, may she rest in peace. I imagine some of you may be feeling like this cat here, that it can be inauthentic to ask us to feel joy in these difficult times. And yet, next slide, please. Each of us has the capacity for joy inside us, like joy here from the Pixar movie Inside Out. I understand joy as something deeper than happiness, something more sustaining, something that we find when we connect to delight and meaning and purpose. We might need to work a little harder to find joy in times of challenge, but I think it is worth carving out intentional time for yourself to encounter joy. Protecting time and space to invite joy in, not necessarily to feel joyful, to make yourself feel joyful, but to create the conditions under which you know you might encounter joy. It can be a powerful practice of self-care. Can you go to the next slide, please, India? So in conclusion, here are 10 truths that I think I and all of us need to hear as we enter 2022. Number 1, this is bullshit. Number 2, what doesn't kill you, doesn't kill you. Number 3, optimism is overrated. Number 4, resilience is underrated. Number 5, we are in this together. Number 6, practices matter more than ideals. Number 7, we must learn to face uncertainty with courage. Number 8, we can do hard things. Number 9, nothing lasts forever. And number 10, we can still have joy. My friends, may we hear the truths in the moments that we need them. May we hold on to these truths, remember these truths, live these truths, and share these truths. May it be so, and amen. Could you go to the last slide, please, India? All right, our closing hymn will be number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Thank you so much to Valerie and Tim and Kathleen for holding us down with music today. Please rise, embody your spirit, and sing along. Hum along, hum along.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
And please join me in saying our call to ministry. We go forth into the world in peace, to act with works of love, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth. One of my favorite benedictions from Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Blessed be and amen.